We really need to.
Any questions about if they have audio? So started things without her. Yeah.
Our clock isn't at 6 yet. Okay, it is now 6 p.m. and I'm calling the City of Carlton budget meeting to order. Amy, roll call, please.
All right. Counselor Erickson. You in attendance?
He's there.
Who was that?
Counselor Erickson?
Here.
Counselor Eglin?
Here.
Counselor Brendow?
Here.
Counselor Maher?
Here.
Counselor Skipper?
Here.
Counselor Ward Mullen?
Here.
Mayor Watkins?
Here.
Budget Committee Member Hill?
Here.
Thank you. Budget Committee Member Moore?
What did you say the first time? Did you say Joe or Moore?
I said Mr. Moore. Is that you?
Okay. Yeah, it's me. Sorry. Having troubles hearing.
Okay, thank you. Budget Committee Member Schultz?
I'm here.
Great. Budget Committee Member Ray Rosh?
Woodrock here.
Perfect. Thank you for helping me with that. Budget Committee Member Meyer?
Here.
And Budget Committee Member Kackerman?
Here.
We are all in attendance and ready to go there.
Amy, you've got it.
I do. I'm going to read a short little rule and housekeeping item if you want to listen, and if you're a participant or a member, mainly participants, will need you to follow these rules. Participants may only unmute themselves when called upon. Participants' names must be displayed with their true name or phone number. If you wish to make a comment and have joined us using a computer or mobile app, please use the raise hand function so that the host can see who wishes to speak. If you are not using a computer and are listening to the meeting using the provided telephone number, please hit *9 on your phone keypad to use the raise hand function as well. When it's your turn to speak, a city representative, myself, will call the participant's name. The participant may unmute their microphone and clearly state their name and address for the record, and then give their comment. We are good to go.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the election of Budget Committee Chairperson for the City of Carlton. As mayor, I nominate Dean Catherman, who has served many years as chairperson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have several seconds. Okay, Amy, roll call vote, please.
All right. Councillor Erickson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor England, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Brendau, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Maher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Councillor Skipper? Okay. And
Aye.
thank you. Councillor Wolverland?
Aye.
Mayor Watkins?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Hill?
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Moore?
Yes. I think I said that for somebody else.
Okay. Budget Committee Member Schultz?
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Wedrock?
Yes.
Trying to get that one, I'm sorry. Budget Committee Member Meyer
Yes.
and Council Member, excuse me, Budget Committee Member Catherman.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, motion passes.
Okay, Dean, it's all yours.
Okay, it's now 6:04 PM. I hereby open the public hearing on F-22 proposed use of state sharing funds. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Catherman, the staff is recommending that the state shared revenue is designated for the street fund. It historically has been going to the street fund. The street fund is the one short on revenues, and it has been designated since we were able to receive it.
At this time, we will open the public testimony portion of the hearing to receive any comments or input from the public. If you wish to speak, raise your hand or use the raise the hand function on your Zoom, and Amy will call you. Once called, please state your name and address. Amy.
All right. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak? Please raise your hand or use the raise hand function now.
For state share
For state
revenue.
share revenue. I see no hands raised at this time, Chair.
Okay. If there are no additional comments, we will close the public testimony and hearing at 6:06 PM. The next item on the agenda is approval of the Budget Committee minutes from May 12, 2020. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of May 12th, 2020.
I second.
Amy, roll call, vote please.
Sure. Councillor Erickson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councillor England?
Aye.
Councillor Brendau?
Yes.
Councillor Maher?
Aye.
Councillor Skipper?
Aye.
Councillor Ward Mullen?
Aye.
Mayor Watkins?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Hill? You're muted still, David.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Budget Committee Member Moore,
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Schultz,
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Wezrock,
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Meyer,
Aye.
and Chair Hatterman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now staff will present the proposed budget message and department presentations.
Thank you, Chair Catherine. We're gonna open with City Manager Shenandoah Care. We are talking loud, we've got a new audio system, but we notice we still need to talk loud. So if you need us to do the volume up, if you could just put your thumbs up, that will help us project. You'll have no problems hearing me, even though you'll be hearing me a lot today. But we'll start with Shannon. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. For those of you who I have not met yet, I'm Shannon O'Care. I'm the new city manager. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedules and for being participating in this budget process for the city of Carlton. I'm pleased to begin this evening by stating that the Carlton budget is in good financial position. Being in good financial position does not happen overnight. It becomes a diligent work of the committee, the city council, and staff for many months and years. And we look forward to presenting tonight some of the details as we continue to present a conservative budget and be fiscally sustainable and responsible in this next fiscal year.
Thank you, Shannon. So I apologize ahead of time. You'll be hearing my voice a lot. So we'll get started with the budget message. I just wanted to start with one clarification for those of you who are new to hearing a budget message. We are required by Oregon budget law to present a budget that details all potential expenses. So oftentimes we have a higher budget figure, but when we get to the actuals, it's significantly lower because they are potential. Projects need to come before council. Things that are over $5,000 come before council. So things can shift and flow, as we learned significantly this last year with COVID and the ice storm. We had two impacts coming. But if that helps you put your brain around what you're looking at is potential expenses that we may have, and that's what you'll be looking for. So I wanted to talk a little bit. There's a piece in the budget message. It's on page 10, and it's about the personnel costs. And personnel costs typically are your larger costs for any municipality. This year we have some pretty good news. Our health insurance cost, which is covered by the city, has no increase. Our PERS rate is the one with an increase. It's 5% for our municipality, and that holds for 2 years. So you will not see a PERS increase next year. The cost of living is a little lower this year. It's 1.8. The city believes in holding true that even if it's low, this is what the staff will receive on July 1. Some cities choose to do different. They'll take it up to 2 or 2.5. There was a big poll on the city manager listserv and the city recorder. But because of the fact we start adjusting, we feel we won't have a level of consistency. So the staff expects to be held to that figure. The workman's comp we're in a unique situation this year, and that is our CIS insurance carrier is no longer going to carry workman's comp, and they're switching us over to SAFE, which is going to have a percentage of savings. We have our best guesstimate that SAFE gave us. It's not through the transition yet. So you're going to see as you go through here, a lot of the salaries were reduced on what they're projecting, anywhere between 2 and 4%, but it kind of leveled out with the retirement. So it'll be pretty close, and I'll talk about it. And the reason I want to talk about it now, impacts quite a few of our funds as we travel through, and when I get to personnel, I won't reiterate all the same information. So with that, if you could turn to page 34 in your packet, which is general fund revenue. Is there electronic packet the same as the numbers on the budget document? Can you guys tell me if page 34 in your packet is the same as the,
This is what.
yep, so page 34 is correct. So as Shannon stated earlier, we took a very conservative approach, and I'll be recapping this through. You'll see that in tourism, you're going to see that in pool, you're going to see that in the numbers of the houses projected. We actually have a little bit higher numbers, and you're going to see it in property taxes, and that's what I want to talk about first. And that's that first line. We are proposing $930,000 in property tax. We don't know when those houses are going to be occupied yet, and we did not want to budget on revenue that where we don't know if it's going to land on this side or where it's going to land. So that's a very conservative number. We will get that $930,000, but it could potentially be more. The other thing is, I'd like you to look at the swim pool receipts. I'm pointing out things that changed differently. So you're going to see in the estimate $20,000 of revenue for the swim pool receipts. That's unusual, and because we didn't open the pool season. So what you don't know is, our pool revenue crosses over 2 years. So this 20,000 was the second half of the year before. So that 20,000 we received and it recorded in this fiscal year. We have a low revenue estimate of 30,000. And the reason is, even if we can open the pool, we still don't know. We had a very limited amount of people that applied for lifeguards. We're going to have shortened hours. We are going to try to have reduced staffing costs so that we could open it at some capacity that we're hoping. And council will be looking at that further as soon as we see us get out of the risk category we're in. So that's a relatively low number. When we get to the Department of Pools, I'll talk about it again, but I wanted to let you know that that is why that is so low, and it looks a little odd actually receiving revenue, but it was for the prior summer. Fines and forfeitures will have an increase this year. We will be soon releasing our fourth officer to solo status. I think he's got, I don't want to speak to the time, but he's close to being released. Then you're going to have increased patrol coverage and increased fines and forfeitures. This amount is a net amount. We actually pay the state of Oregon and the county for every ticket that is written. It disperses out to 2 other places, and then part of it comes to the city budget. So you're going to see a change in that. Then in the grants, it will be the same again this year. We've got the COPS grants will be in there. We've already received our first almost 42,000. We'll receive it again. I know that the police department is also applying for Dewey grants and seat belts, which will give even more patrol time on the streets for them, and it'll be supplemented by the state of Oregon. And so I think that is it on the revenue page. Oh, no, one other thing. I'm trying to remember, so we had several counselors ask questions, and you'll see in my notes, and I'll have some relevance in this. One of the counselors had a good question about the interest. For a while there, we were getting quite a bit of money in interest because we do have a fairly large sum in, it's called a treasury pool with the state of Oregon that we gain interest on. And then for several years, we were in the 2% range. And then once COVID hit, it plummeted, and the city managers again and the listservs were ablaze with it. And you cannot move it out of a conservative pool because it's taxpayers' money. You can't put it in some brokerage and hoping to do that. You have to keep it in as stable. They're still looking around, and if we do find something, the interest rates are starting to climb, but we have dropped the revenue estimates on that at this point. And then if we get any good information on where we can move those funds, we will bring that to council. Any questions on revenues before we start into the departments? Go ahead, Councilor Randall.
I have a question about the buildings rent. I'm just not sure what it is. You want to zero for this current year?
Good question. So before, about, gosh, it's been almost 3 years now, we used to get rent from the buildings next door where the police department now resides and from the Monroe Street house. So with the sale of the Monroe Street house and the police moving over there, the renters have moved on. So we no longer are renting. We've taken ourselves out of the renting business.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, if you will move to page 36. We touched base on the personnel. You'll see that the proposed is lower than the adopted of last year. I feel pretty good about those numbers. The only thing we're unsure is the workman's comp. In the actual expenses, the big jump in the admin, they house a lot of the attorney fees for, it's miscellaneous, creating of questions, like if the mayor has a question, or we've just had an increase with our development, our planning, our ordinance updates. It also falls part into planning, but there's those initial conversations, and so our attorney fees have significantly increased with the busyness of the city. And you'll see this increase also in the planning department, and it just allowing that. To do that. And then our city attorney rates just took an increase up to $185 per hour, just to give you an idea. So a lot of agreements we write, a lot of bonding, all that has to go through the city attorney. That is not something that staff can make a decision on, and then it's brought forth with attorney opinion or red line. For example, you just saw the IGA agreement for the county road that we're sharing with county on when we repave up on Panther Creek. So that does have an increase. Other than that, everything pretty much stays the same, including the transfers, and no budgeting for any office equipment with administration this time. But I do have, in the general fund, the admin fund is where the transfers are budgeted. And you'll see in the finance, the contingency is budgeted in the finance. It was set up years ago, and so to keep a consistency of history, we leave that instead of putting it all in admin. Any questions on admin?
Councilor Erickson is raising his hand.
Yes, Councilor Erickson.
On the attorney fees, how often is it that particular firm, is it looked at to where if we move to someone else or they reevaluate the firm?
Yeah, it's the attorney thing is a little tricky. We could do a reevaluation, we could do an RFP, but all our deeds, our titles changes, our liens against property, all this resides inside this firm. So typically, historically, you leave the city attorney alone in here, but if council deems it a necessary RFP, that can always be. But then you'll have the learning curve of them and trying to get that history from the original. I think this attorney office has been here almost since the inception. They also do Sherwood and the city of Yamhill. Does that help?
Kinda, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, with that, we're gonna move to finance, and that is on page 38. So, personnel, okay, so you're gonna see so finance, water and sewer share a lot of, they're called indirect costs, so it splits 33, 33, 34. So finance, actually carries a large percentage of the expense. And this year we had some unexpected expenses. One is, huge, and you'll see it in the 3, was professional services. We had an unexpected replacement of a city manager. We had to hire a recruiting firm. Then we had to get together in a goal setting that normally the city did not bear the cost. They just did it on their own. And then we did a water rate analysis too, because we were supposed to raise our sewer rates to 15.7% this season. And we wanted a hard look to get that as low as possible with the development and factoring that in. So that caused us to have some extra expenses in those categories. There's a slight increase from adopted though, because we've stayed relatively low on our rest of our expenses of only $2,400. And these increases is the merchant bank fees, which increase every year. The insurance all across funds through CIS has increased for our property and liability by 10%. And as you're aware, we've got 2 active claims with CIS, so we'll see how that impacts us for next year. And then our utilities and communications, those also have an increased bump, their cost of living bump. But it didn't, at the bottom line, did not come out that much. The equipment that is being in the capital outlay is for 2 computer replacements. We're on a revolving computer replacement program with our IT services. They keep a track of our warranties when the machines are old. And so that is the finance portion of replacing 2 complete computer setups. And then you'll see that the contingency sits in here. And there's no longer any debt service. I should bring to your attention, I was going to bring it to you later, where it says debt service fund, we adopted 0 to pay off the loans for the two rental buildings. The sale didn't happen until this side of the fiscal year, so you're going to actually see in June a budget adjustment. It's not a monetary adjustment, it's just adjusting money out of contingency to give us the appropriation that we needed to pay off that loan. You'll also see that with the ice storm, we had some huge expenses with trees, gas, and public works took a heavy hit. But that's why you're seeing that estimated as 0 with an actual dollar figure. The sale just fell outside into the next fiscal year. Any questions on finance? Sorry.
Christy,
Yes.
just a quick question. Can you tell me what the taxes on rental properties is?
Yes. So we are, it used to be Monroe, it is Monroe Street and the police building. We will still have some of those after the wholesale thing is complete. We budgeted full, it will be less than that amount, but we don't have that value with the sale yet. But it was for the 2 properties that used to be rentals, that we no longer own one of them.
Thank you.
All right, planning, page 40. So planning, salaries, pretty close. We do have some increases. One is the attorney fees. We've had some tricky situations coming to the Planning Commission with the developments. We're going to have some multifamily housing, and we're also going to be working on code work. So we're projecting an increase in planning for the attorney. When we get the attorney's bills, we actually disperse it out to the work that he's been on. Engineering expense. We've got a lot of infill activity, some future development, and that will continue as we work through the streets. And that will cover, we're getting another SCA grant for East Main. He'll be doing the engineering. He's actually started engineering work. And then we're applying for a new SCA grant on West Main. So we're gonna, you expect to see some increases on engineering. The city is just really busy with projects, and he'll be instrumental when we start working on sidewalks and paving of what streets we're gonna pave this season. The special land use, the 50,000, that is for getting that code work done. We don't know if we're gonna bring someone in. We're creating a strategy right now. That is an objective, a possible expense on how that's going to handle. We're in the early stages. We've recognized by council as their goals, their number one is to work on the development code and the consistency with our muni code and our land. There's three things. So what?
Comprehensive plan.
Oh, and the comprehensive plan, I'm sorry. So if you are adept at reading the three plans or three bodies of work, often they're talking about the same thing, but they have some different language, and then we need to do some updates. So we really want to work on that this season, and that's what this is a placeholder if we need special help to come in and help combine the language of all three things. Any other questions on planning? All right, the next one is police. You're going to see that their proposed wages is actually less than what was adopted, and the estimate is even less. So the one part in the estimate, the reason it's significantly lower is Officer Steves did not get hired until September 1st. So it was projected at a full year's wages last year. And so it came in lower, and then we are proposing even less because of the adjustments with workman's comp, which is huge. As you know, with police, the workman's comp is critical. They're leaving their overtime the same. They're hoping that with the extra coverage, we can keep it. They quickly can get into an overtime situation. Just the other night, they were scheduled to be off at a certain time and ended up in a very critical call that they were here till 3 in the morning, and all the units had to be called in. So overtime can be gone in a blink. If we get to the point where we're over that 20,000, we will come to council and you guys will be apprised. And we've not seen that happen yet. The other fee that is increasing is the dispatch fees. It is based it's on YCOM. They create the fee, and they're increasing their rates by 3% this year. And the other cost is under dues and subscriptions. So we used to have servers inside the building. And then what happened is, as the police cameras and came into play, and the dash cams, and county's going to be going through this too, because they're switching to body cams for liability reasons. This general fund was paying for the server. That cost is now gone because it's moved, and the police department has absorbed it. But that's because their police, it's called Axon, is actually absorbing the server. And then we moved a lot of the city records through Microsoft upline to save costs. So it washes out in lesser expense earlier in the general fund, but that's a revolving expense to house all that digital footage. And then you'll see that we are projecting less in National Night Out. And that is because we don't know if we can do a modified version. We can't, as you know, the chief gets a lot of donors and things are free for the children of the community to come. We couldn't do it last year. It's looking like the hard part is National Night Out gets about 800 to 1,000 in attendance. And depending on the COVID situation, we are not at this time planning it unless we have drastic changes with COVID. Any questions on police? let's move to page 44, municipal court. Municipal court is stayed pretty stable. The personnel is coming in lower. We are going to have increased court costs, and that could potentially, as the citations are running through, our court gets pretty hoppy in here. We run our judge through payroll, so you're not seeing the judge fees here. And then professional services is our Cassell software, and
It should just be Cassell.
just Cassell. So this is stayed very stable. It's actually less. We're proposing less than what we adopted last year. Parks page, oh, sorry, any questions on Unicart? I'm sorry.
Christy, what did you say about the judge?
The judge is actually run through payroll with the city of Carlton. It was an agreement they made back in 2001 or 6. So the judge is a traveling judge. He does Dundee, Amity, Sheridan, and Lafayette. All that payroll runs through the city of Carlton. And he pays us a fee to have that payroll run through here. The judge is, I don't know how much longer we're gonna have him, but so he's a traveling judge, and they made an intergovernmental agreement years ago.
So the salary line item is his salary?
That he is, yes, included in there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, page 48,
I
which
got a question.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
So on that municipal court, where you have salary, that 20,000 for the judge, I'm assuming, right?
Judge and Morgan. So,
Okay. So what about this, where it says unemployment, social security, all those other items down? Is that part of that 20,000 to take care of the judge? As you say, it's run through the city payroll?
it is part of the judge and part of staff. So we have staff distributed, and so that is all encompassed. So that is part judge and part court clerk. So it's 2 people in there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do the other cities chip in on that?
Yes, they pay us a fee also. Good question there. Just for you guys who didn't hear that, the other cities also pay us a fee of $24 per $200.
Just one more quick question. Sorry, Christy.
No worries.
On the health insurance, it's $6,300. Is that, can you tell me what that's made of? That seems a little bit high based on a 0.2 FTE.
It's definitely not the judge. He has no benefits with the city. So that is off of part Morgan, sorry, don't mean to use names, part court clerk and part office specialist. So it's split between funds.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, on parks, page 46. Parks has stayed pretty consistent. We're proposing less than we adopted, and we are actually proposing less per salary than the estimates. And the reason is we had some disbursements. Our seasonal worker is going to kick off later this year, and it just dispersed out that way in regards with parks. And most of that is we have a parks person, but we do have some staff that code like 5% or 10% in there. Communication has a uptick, maintenance, and then we're increasing the arborists this year because of the fact of the branches and all the damage we had this season during the ice storm. We want to have a little more aggressive and take a look at it. And Shannon is currently working right now with the city attorney on defining some trees in the right of way and how we're gonna handle that. So it might have some play. This just gives us a little wiggle room in case we need to pick up an expense, depending on the homeowner or how that's gonna go. Any question on parks? Oh, the 10,000 is for security cam and security camera and benches, seating. Yes, Grant? Counselor Erickson?
So you said, oh, you're fine with the first. You said a parked person. So this is for one employee, and does that employee does he do anything else for the city or just parks only?
He does do some street maintenance, but it's very small. Almost the 95% of his job is parks purely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, okay, this is the what if one, the pool on page 48. So these expenses and salary are all very raw. Our best guess, Amy, how many guards did we get to apply?
9.
So we have 9 guards. We won't be able to sell pool passes if we get to open the pool. So we will be limiting the hours. The goal of the city and the desire of council is to open the pool if we can. We already have our insurance carrier. The minute we say we're going to open the pool, they want the data and they're going to come assess us. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull it off in time. So this is a maybe, and that's our best guess on having, we usually have 13 to 17 guards. These guards will be having to work extra hours. So we just don't know how it's going to play out. So we just kind of did a quick down and dirty. We still will have some expenses. So what we're doing right now, the certifications for the lifeguards was very difficult, and they raised the fees to $250. So we have an outfit coming to the pool on May 26th to certify the guards, regardless if we open the pool or not. They're doing it for a low cost of $85 per guard. We didn't want the kids to pay the $250 and we didn't open the pool. So in the meantime, our public works staff has turned on the broiler. We're heating up the pool. They're doing a preliminary cleaning of just the deck area and the inside where the training is going to occur until we make that final decision. So we will have some expense incurred, but it'll be pretty nominal. The capital outlay, we always add extra seating, and we're going to add some cameras. We've got some by the pool. We've got some activity coming through an alleyway in the backside. So we want to get some hands on some of during the summer, our criminal mischief with our teenage kids with nothing to do, decide that there's other things to do. Any questions on the pool? Yes, Guillermo.
I thought during the council meeting, if we moved to high risk, we wouldn't open the pool.
That is correct. We won't open in high risk.
So we are high risk right now, right?
That is correct. If we move to low is when we can open the pool. So it's all a best guess. I don't know if it's going to happen. And we will.
So we are still planning to open the pool, but
we are planning as an objective. If it goes to low risk, we have to have some money in appropriation. If the pool doesn't open, that money won't be spent.
okay. And so when is the cutoff date to decide to open or not, if there is one?
It's hard to tell. We just got a notice today from another notice. I didn't have any time to read it about the governor, her move to lifting some of the restrictions. We typically don't open the pool until mid-June, so this will come back to council for that final decision in June.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the summary on page 50 is just a recap. It is the proposed budget for $1,826,159, and it's just a recap of all the departments blended together. Then we move to tourism fund. This is our next what if, and that'll be page 52. So tourism this year attempted a relaunch. We're still struggling with that a little bit, but we have high hopes. We've got a good chair with a lot of energy and good support from our council liaison, Kathy Maher. These numbers here are goals and objectives. They are not hard numbers. Per budget law, we have to balance down to a 0. So special projects is a placeholder. These monies will not be spent if we do not have the revenue. Currently, we're at a 30% decrease in revenue. We monitor it every month and watch that percentage closely. The only thing we've really left active is our social media campaign, and they've been advertising and giving us a report monthly. But all other projects are off the table until we see some rebounding. The energy is good out there. The revenues are starting to climb, and I think on this next quarterly report, we'll actually see where we're going to hit. I thought we were going to have less revenue than we got, so I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Excuse me. So this is a placeholder, and we won't move forward. And your council liaison also watches the financials too, and we won't spend it unless we have it. Yes. Go ahead,
You
Kathy.
say, the holiday lighting, is that in the additional funds there?
There is no holiday lighting in tourism this year, and no money was spent last year.
Okay, because I thought I saw it in the write-up, but I wasn't sure where it was accounted for as a line item.
No, the events is if like Northwest Food and Wine Festival comes back or some other things, the market
Right.
is, yeah, it's, and if, you know, memberships, if none of this is set in stone, but no holiday lighting.
Yeah, I went with the concerns we've had this year and the revenues being so far down. You want to be mindful that tourism really is focused to bring people from outside of Carlton in a 50-mile radius. So the expenditures we do agreed to on that, just for everybody else's knowledge here, we really want to make sure that's what those are attempting to do and not have, you know, more localized type of things like that. So appreciate that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, street fund.
Christy, can I just ask a quick question?
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. On the transient room tax, is that from VRBOs and bed and breakfast?
Yes, it is. They,
Okay.
Airbnb pays us directly, HomeAway pays us directly, VRBO pays us directly, Priceline, Expedia, but they're all kind of a conglomerate. And then we also have the bed and breakfasts themselves that pay. So they have to submit 2 sheets to us. VRBO collects their revenues and pays us. The other ones do not. So we have to balance to the VRBO checks, and then the other ones we balance on the other. The good news, exciting news on this is the state of Oregon is going to create, because this is a problem across the industry. Carlton actually passed audit flying colors, and they were very impressed by how diligent we are keeping an eye on the VRBOs as they hit the market. But the state of Oregon recognizes this as a problem, and they are creating a program to take on collecting the tourism dollars from all these different companies out there and providing consistency, the monitoring, and that type of thing. And then our planning and administrative manager, Amy, has been going to those trainings, but we don't have an estimated start date at this point. With the state of Oregon, they run a little slow, but we're keeping our eyes on it. It'd be nice to have somebody in official capacity watching these bigger companies, the Price Lines and the HomeAways.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other on tourism? Okay, then we'll go to the street fund. So street fund, I'm very proud of, the city is very proud of. When I got here, the street fund was failing. We couldn't do paving, we couldn't do sidewalks. And then Chad and I brainstormed, we moved over right-of-way permits, and that really helps because as utility companies come in, and it makes sense because it's a street. We have the state revenue sharing that is here. And so we are, for our last 2-3 years, we've actually done paving, sidewalks. We're working on a sidewalk grant program that will land in here, and some of it comes out of the capital improvement fund. The one thing I wanted to notice, this budget is really stable. I flatlined the state revenue sharing. That is going to be the minimum. So state revenue sharing is based on population. As we keep adding these subdivisions and stuff, that's going to increase the numbers. And as just kind of a sidetrack for you, the state revenue sharing has all different components in there, including some marijuana tax. And of course that during COVID all increased. So I think we're going to be more than that, but we still stayed conservative at this time because we just don't know when the occupancy and when they're going to base that on their population counts. So that's the revenue. On page 55, we have reduced the salary from the adopted before. It does have a little bit of bump to the estimate because of the retirement changes. And then we are increasing the street striping because of the markings for the sidewalks. They're really critical for our children to travel safely to get to school and during the summer. And then also with the downtown area, having those markings to try to get them to travel. The other one is the street sweeping, and this street sweeping is going to become even more into the picture as we start developing a plan for our Mercury TMDL, which the state of Oregon DEQ is mandating that we reduce the mercury and debris going down into the storm drain to keep our fish safe. We are going to be developing a 5-year plan. Shannon's working on that with Brian Burnham at this time. And so we have to be prepared and show what we've already implemented to have it be less fiscally painful as possible. And then down under transfers, you'll see general fund. The street fund cannot help much in indirect cost. It's a small revenue. This is based off the revenue they project, and this is what they pay back to the general fund for the costs that we incur for processing everything. So this is their indirect cost. They don't split out or distribute through the multitude of expenses. Their fund's just too small and too critical to get our roads and sidewalks safe. And then we are transferring 50,000 over for planning projects and sidewalks. We've got some exciting grants coming up in FY23, so you'll see them next year. And then it holds a good contingency. So any questions on streets? Okay, hearing none. Go to the water fund, page 58. So in the water fund, we're estimating 30 homes We added that to the revenue for water receipts. We have a small water increase this year, 3.8, and that includes the CPI. We have hookup fees, which is why you see that 25,000 estimating those homes. And then you're going to see an increase of a transfer, and that transfer in as revenue is coming from the SDC funds. And when they pay SDC funds for new development, they pay a fee for a water meter, $650. So we're transferring, we've got enough meters now we're still in the replacement part for the AMRs, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But SDCs, we can transfer money from those to the water fund as revenue. So when Public Works needs to buy the meters for that, we've got income for that. And you'll see that in material services. So on page 59, the wages are significantly less. We estimated adding that staff person and came in high on the adopted. You'll see on the estimated, and then the proposed. Now the estimated is low because the extra Public Works staff did not start until November. And this was projected on a year, so it's coming well under budget. And then you'll see down under water meters, that 40,000 for that new development, that's about halfway down. So that's the biggest change in their budget. You will also see the estimates were over budget because of the ice storm and increased expenses. So, and the professional services for the city manager and goal setting, that will be coming to council as a budget adjustment. And just so you know, we did get qualified, the county, with FEMA, and they just sent us all the paperwork. So even if we do a budget adjustment, we're holding this in a FEMA area, and we will adjust back to it as they reimburse us. So we got it. Where was the notification through? Wasn't it through was it the president or the state? So the state governor's office recognized that Yamhill County did qualify for FEMA, and Brian Burnham, our public works director, gave them all the preliminary costs early on. So we're hoping that that all transpires. So that will wash eventually. We just don't know where it's going to wash out.
So we're getting, for the repairs and everything that we were dealing with, we're getting FEMA money back.
Yes, that is correct. In particular, those trees really cost us a lot, and then the overtime and the, it was just a very chaotic on the budget, but we did get approval for that. Now we just have to do the paperwork.
The amount of reimbursement for FEMA sometimes varies, so it may not be 100% reimbursement. Sometimes it's 70% versus 100%, but we will work on that. And there's a lot of paperwork and documentation involved.
And 70% is 70%.
Something.
It's huge. It's really big. So, and then you'll see under capital outlay, the city hall equipment, this is the water funds component to its participation in those 2 computer purchases. Water equipment. So water equipment, you see a bulk of 66,000, and I know in the budget message it spelled it out, but I kind of want to touch base a little bit on that. The drift boat that we use up at the reservoir actually got stolen. Someone got in there and took it, and we don't know who did it. So the boat is going to be large and safer for the workers to use, and it holds essential equipment without overloading, and they actually use the boat out in that reservoir. So that's 8,000. Filter media, which is another reason that the water fund went over. We had a failure of our filter media. It's an exclusive buyer. You cannot purchase it from any other place for the water plant. The filter media is 40,000, and it is a garnet sand that's a proprietary blend that they purchase from Filtronics. And filters, we have to replace it about every 3 years, because small amounts are lost with every backwash cycle. And that's completed 4 to 6 times per day over a period of 3 years, and then it covers. So we are due to replace that. The AMR clip belt, which is the automatic meter read. We now have 2 meter readers that it's automatic, it clips on their belt. It's an expensive item, it's $3,500. And then they can divide the city and get the meters read really fast. It transmits to the belt. And then the fuel tank is next. And the fuel tank and the generator, which I'm going to talk about here, is being shared by sewer. So during the ice storm, we found that Carlton Corners wasn't available for gas or any type of fuels. So we spent a lot of staffing time sending them to McMinnville to get gas and diesel to keep those generators alive and keep gas in while they were running around to hot calls. So we are proposing that we do a fuel tank that'll be behind locked so no one can get to it. It will have an electronic auditing pad, and that we will be able to have this for those type of emergencies. There used to be one down there a long time ago, but they removed it. It had some damage, or it wasn't behind. I can't remember all the reasons for the removal. And then the generator pad and electrical connection. So we have an existing generator that is sitting up, is it Hahn Creek? So at Hahn Creek, that we're going to be removing and taking it down to the Public Works and putting it on a generator pad because they didn't have power when we were out. And then they're going to put a transfer switch in, and it's big enough to have that whole Public Works building going. So this $10,500 and $2,500 is the cost for that, is to get that up and running so that Public Works can have power. And so that covers the water equipment. And then you'll see the water meter lease. We have 2 more years, and then that will fall off the books totally. For those of you who are new, the water meter lease was a way to start transferring and replacing all our meters from manually replacing them to an automatic meter read. And the good part about this is when you have an old meter and it's leaking or it's not functioning anymore, you would think that it would generate more revenue because it's faulty. It actually does not generate the correct revenue, it's actually less. So increasing the new meters throughout and replacing all the old has made us have a better feel of what the true revenue numbers are. So it was a very beneficial program. We have software. I'm sure some of you have heard from Morgan time and time again saying, I think you have a leak. It's leaking between the hours of here and here, or someone hit your water really hard at 3 o'clock in the morning. We had that happen at Carlton Corners several times, someone hitting it. She can pull it up and tell you by the minute where the water usage is. And so we still have, I'd say about a quarter of them left, about a quarter of the meters of the old ones to get replaced. And then anything new is the automatic meter reads. And then in transfers, vehicle replacement fund, I will get there. I'll talk about Public Works is due for a new vehicle. It is roughly about $30,000, and we're transferring it over to the vehicle replacement fund because it houses equipment and vehicles. But we are selling a bucket truck and a little truck. All those funds will offset those costs down the road. Like the chief sold those Crown Victorias, and we offset some of his costs with the sale of those Crown Victorias. So just being financially prudent. Water projects is transferring $250,000. I'll talk about that when we get to the capital improvement fund. And then City Hall is $50,000, and then our debt service fund is $259,697. So that is water fund. Any questions on the water fund?
Counselor Skipper.
Yes, Counselor Skipper.
Hey, just a quick question on that fuel tank. Is that going to just be used for emergency purposes, or is it going to be to fuel all the fleet?
It's going to be half gas and half diesel. So I believe they're going. It's not going to be a full-time fleet, but they will use it more because of that diesel component, and they'll keep it full for emergency purposes. But they still will be using Carlton Corners too. It'll be a coordinated effort.
Thank you.
Counselor Eglin.
Hi, just a quick question, and I apologize for not asking earlier, but on the water receipts, you said that we're gonna have 30 new homes, which is good. Do you know approximately how many meters we collect on? I'm not sure I'm asking that right.
Well, they're called EDUs. And
Okay.
currently, right now, we have 1,168.
Oh,
and
perfect.
we're projecting in that housing development, how many's in one?
38.
38 is going in one, so that'll be 38 additional EDUs. And then I don't think we'll see JR Meadows in 2, but that's gonna be 50 some. We kept it relatively at the 1,168 because I don't know when that occupancy is gonna happen. Many of the houses already say sold, and so we budgeted conservatively.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, go ahead, Joe.
You said something about a 3.8% increase. Was that on fees or was that on just the hookups, new hookups?
No, the 3.8% is the water increase for the water bill this year. And that's Guillermo?
You mentioned the boat that got stolen. Do we have any insurance on that boat?
We do. So this is the tricky thing. The value of the boat by the time it got stolen was probably $2,000. And to file a claim with our insurance company at that point and pay the deductible, and then you have to weigh the cost of the increase by filing a claim. We did not file it with that. We would have maybe netted $500 from the insurance company, and then had they give me a risk assessment once a month, and it would have fell into that with the dollar value. And we got our hands full already with the CIS, so we did not file a claim to retrieve that 500.
Okay, because the insurance would get more expensive essentially.
That is correct. They track every claim, every component, and they get it back. Yeah.
It's so backwards that you can't use the insurance that you have. But
I do agree. Even at home, you call and you say, my whole roof, half of it flew off. Well, if you file, and then they cancel you, but I digress. So,
okay.
Do you have a question? Go ahead, Grant.
Did you guys say for me?
Yes.
Okay, so you were talking about they're going to put a fuel tank down at the Public Works and then use that for special occasions, I guess you could call it. Have they looked into possibly putting in a larger one and then buying the fuel direct, say like from Wilco or one of the other suppliers, and not using a regular retail fuel station?
It's not like regular, it's a 1,000-gallon tank. And I do believe, is it Wilco? I think it's Wilco it's Wilco that is coming to fill it out. So they are working in conjunction with Wilco.
Okay, so do we get a better price? Would it be better off for the city, for the police department to go down there and fill up instead of going to a service station?
Yeah, Brian, do you have the question? I know you're online. I'm not aware of the cost comparison to Carlton Corners. Do you have that answer? Brian?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we're getting the price of the off-road diesel, which we're getting currently we're using on-road diesel up there, so it's going to be cheaper on the diesel. And I haven't got an update on the gas. Gas prices are changing right now, so I would imagine that it is going to be less than Carlton Corners. And to answer your question about being a primary tank for us, that will be a primary tank. We're going to be using that, and then we'll be filling it, and then in events of emergency, we'll be able to have gas on site, and we can also request to have that filled. So that's going to be Public Works as primary. We're still going to be getting we're still going to be getting on ethanol up at Carlton Corners to run in our small engines. And so anyway, that's where we're at right now.
And then Grant, for your information, the police will also be provided codes and access to those tanks. The only problem is during an ice storm, they need to have a backup to be able to go to Carlton Corners because of being able to get down that hill. Their vehicles aren't as adept as the four-wheel drive trucks.
The new police vehicles aren't four-wheel drive?
Well, I don't know that answer actually. I don't know if it's four-wheel drive or not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on water? All right, and we will move to sewer. And that is page 63. So if you'll note the big change in sewer, for a long time sewer was almost in a failing capacity. You'll see that the beginning fund balance, the actual in FY19 was a negative 11,000, and then in 20 increased. We adopted more, and then our estimates are coming in really close, and we're proposing 311 for the beginning fund balance. This is a huge step. Sewer, I was going to use a pun, but I'm not going to. So sewer is a difficult fund. We do get some fees from the sewer receipts. And what happened is they were behind in getting the rates up to par in sewer for a while. And it showed with the expenses and the collapse of the older pipes that we're still having to deal with. And then now that we're getting, when they changed to the sewer consumption method, it was to be revenue neutral, but it is actually balancing the fund where we can pay the expenses and not drive our beginning fund balance down and be able to do repair work. The hookup fees are increased because we're going to have the hookup fees for sewer are $150. And then we have the land lease for ag use. And for those of you that don't know, that is for the area behind the lagoons. We lease that out to a farmer, and he pays to use that land in the back and behind it. So our revenue has a slight increase. It is going to be more with the new housing development. We'll see that balance up as the occupancy goes up. Then on page 64, payroll is less. There's nothing much to note there. We are only increasing the material and services about $150. Although we just had another sewer emergency that's impacting us, but some of it's going to be a capacity upgrade, and I'll talk about that when I get to the SDC funds. But we do have some aged sewer lines that are going to need to be, besides the DEQ work that we are have mandated to do, we also have aged sewer lines. So we're going to be needing to do more and more work in the sewer component now that our water is getting pretty well done. In the office equipment, it's their share of the 4,000 for the computers. The 10,000 is their share of the fuel tank and the generator. And then they're transferring 400,000 out of this sewer fund into capital improvement fund for sewer projects slated for the lagoon project. And if we have a failure of a pipe, we have some funds to fix a pipe there. City Hall reserve 50,000 and the debt service $129,513. They have a contingency of 243,102, which is a healthy contingency, and continue to see improvement. This year it was slated that sewer was supposed to increase another 15.7, and we got it down to 12%. Yeah, 12%, bringing in a water rate analysis. And the good news is with that development, the following year, which was supposed to have double digits, is projected to be just 6. So, and then the city is working very aggressively on getting grants. And Shannon and Linda have had meetings with Senator Ron Noble and, oh, sorry, Senator, I just elevated him. State Representative Ron Noble. Mary Starrett reached out today, and then Casey Kula, we've provided. American relief funds are coming in. The city of Carlton gets 477,000. That's going to go to sewer. We only get the first half this year. It'll be distributed 30 days after it hits the state. They'll hold it for 30 days. We have sent an executive summary to go before the state representatives. Shannon wrote it. Sorry. Wrote that, we're giving it to the county commissioners. They don't know if they can help us in conjunction. We are going to be filling out a capital plan project to try to even get more funding to help with the state mandated costs of the $6.8 million. And so we're going to do whatever we can to reduce that loan we have to take out. We have that loan meeting next week. It's a one-stop meeting. It's required by the state of Oregon to give us, because DEQ is mandating we do the sewer projects, they will give us a very low interest rate. We have to jump through a lot of hoops to even get that. So the worst case scenario is 6% next year, or pending grants. So we are working hard as council and staff to reduce that expense as much as possible. So I just kind of want to give you that kind of, I feel like we're really moving in the right direction. With that, are there any questions on sewer? Okay. All right, so now we're going to go to the capital improvement fund. And this is a complicated fund, but it's a great fund. And the reason is the city is made up of 10 funds, as you know, in 7 departments. 3 of them are the major revenues that run the city. And the transfers from these 4 projects come here. And they come to capital improvement fund for facilities, parks, transportation, water, sewer, and we're soon going to have to start transferring for storm as we get that plan for that Mercury that's coming down the pike. The city is in a very healthy state right now with a beginning fund balance of over $1 million. Of that $1 million in that beginning fund balance, City Hall is 642,000 of it. It had a larger balance, but with all the expenses of the architects over the last couple of years, it's reduced it down. And so you have that. Your interest has dropped a little. We have a miscellaneous revenue, and that's where the finished sale of the proceeds are going to go, of the 156 Monroe. And then we have the governmental 275,000, and those are going to be grants coming in. And then you're gonna see grants of almost $8 million. And what that is that's the transmission line and the dredging grant. And we've already received quite a bit of reimbursement as it's worked through engineering and permitting and paying for permits. We won't lose 1 cent of the 9.5 million. Every ounce will be spent. Some of it will bleed over into the following fiscal year. So you'll see this writing here a little bit. Facilities, we have a placeholder of 750,000, depending on when it goes back to council, if it's going towards a build or a repair. So that will be determined by council at a later date. We do know that for sure we have a 200,000 that we have to do in the back to pave that parking lot. And that is an estimate from the engineer, but we just found out we have to adjust a foot forward or add some extra concrete for the county. So that's what that placeholder is. The park projects is for Hahn Creek development of a path or Hahn Creek shelter. And again, remember, these are goals and objectives. These are things that are in the plans. If the money's not there, we don't spend it and it goes to council first. We just don't plan a park shelter without council approval. Water project is going to be, while we're doing the dredging, we're taking the water plant offline and we're going to be, it's called clear coat. We're painting the inside and the outside of the water tank, and that's part of the money's coming from there. Sewer projects, sorry, water projects, that's the dredging and the water line. And then there's a couple other little things in there. It's also part of the water treatment plant. And then sewer projects this is for pipe replacements, pipe collapse, upgrades. It's just a transfer over so we have something. The capital improvement fund a while ago was just kind of bouncing around, and now it's very fiscally strong. So that's the projects that are outlaid. These projects are big in magnitude and all come before council before any proceeding. Any questions on capital improvement? Okay. With that, we are going to move to the SDC fund, my favorite fund. Well, kind of, it's double-edged. So there's multiple pages. It's page 83 is where it starts. The SDC fund is moved into 5 different groups. They're not really departments, but they're segregated by category. And I'm not going to go through each sheet. I'm going to actually go to the summary and then talk about the SDC fund. So we based the budget on 30 new homes. We know we've got some bouncing around ideas of some infill projects and that we will probably exceed that, but without, you've got to always plan that something happens and you don't overestimate your revenues. So the summary page, which is on page 93, you'll see a beginning fund balance of almost $3 million. We're anticipating a different revenues for all 5 of those areas to be about 735,000. And then materials and services is about 270. Now this is including in this one a transportation plan update. We're working on getting a grant for that. And then capital outlay is monies that can be used. We're going to be spending almost $1 million out of the SDC funds on the sewer project. So it's sitting in there. And then it has that $40,000 transfer. And then it has a contingency fund because we need to hold it. The SDC fund won't be in dire straits or need to use that contingency. It will roll over to the beginning fund balance. And you can see that we adopted last year revenue of $486,860, but it's coming in at about $808,000. So it just depends on the build. Again, this is a very conservative budget. But for some of you may not know that SDC funds can only be spent on new development, capacity upgrades, or items that are laid out in our master plans. We just had a pipe collapse over on Pine Street. I can use part SDC funds because they're going to upgrade the pipe capacity to a larger pipe. But the other parts of the repair, I cannot use the SDC funds because it's about maintenance, not capacity upgrade. So it'll be split between SDCs and capital improvement fund. The state of Oregon is very specific about SDC funds. And you're going to start to see some of these spend as we continue to develop and move through our projects. But sewer will be the big one this year. Any questions on SDCs? Okay. Page 80, next, sorry, 95, help with classes. It's the Geo Bond 2015 pool project. So you're going to see a low beginning fund balance. You're going to see a low contingency, and there's a reason. There is no 20% of reserves for this, and it's because it's a Geo Bond. The city is monitored closely that we don't this is a tax we impose upon our citizens every tax season. We will be certifying that tax council on June 2nd. And with that certification, you don't want to overspend, but you've got to be really careful about you can't go under either. The only expense that can come out of here is like a baby debt service fund, is the payment for the pool bond, and that's that Western Alliance in the middle. That number will stay pretty consistent. It's the tax collection that's a guess, as people don't pay their taxes on time, or trying to guess what you're guessing about a 4% to 6% of uncollected taxes. So we keep it between 3,000 and 9,000, trying to stay safe. But this is where you won't see a 20% reserve built up because it's not allowed. Any questions on the Geo pool bond? I know that one's not exciting.
When is that done?
What?
When is that done?
The pool, we took it out for 975,000. We're paid down to 820. I think it's a 20-year, and we've only been paying on it like about 5 years. So we've got a ways to go. Our water bond 2007 will be coming off, I think, in 6 years, 7 years. I'm trying to remember. We've got one coming off soon. Debt service fund, page 97. So debt service fund also is unusual. You have to, it's not even supposed to have a beginning fund balance. And the reason it does is one of our loans states that we have to hold a payment and a half for one of the bonds. So the auditors actually created and felt that should house here. Normally a debt service fund would be like the pool, and it would be close to zero as possible. That's holding a reserve payment in case they feel we can't make that payment. And in this, you're going to see where the budget adjustment's coming in, because we didn't budget for the debt service for the buildings. We thought it was going to happen the year before. So we'll be budgeted adjusting not money, but contingency to do those two payoff amounts, and then it'll be back to zero. So the estimate is where the adjustment is for this year, but we will be at zero for that Citizens Bank loan that'll be paid off. Excuse me. Other than that, there's nothing unusual about the debt service fund. It's there's no new debt. The Meadow Lake finally kicked in, and we're making payments on. And I'll talk about that Meadow Lake loan payment when we get to urban renewal. But other than that, that's it for debt service. Any questions? Okay. Vehicle equipment replacement fund. This is like the capital improvement, but this is more for vehicles. One year we had a 0-turn mower that a couple funds contributed to. We have the police department were required to change their radios, and this is housed in here. You'll see that lease payments in here, and it's only a 3-year lease payment, so next year that will fall off. And then Public Works is replacing a vehicle. So we do have the vehicles on alternating schedules as we go, and some years we don't have a vehicle. We just kind of timed out where we've had quite a bit of aging. This will be reduced by the sale of the bucket truck when it comes through. The contingency is not held in contingency because we wouldn't use it. It's called an unappropriated, and that's required by budget law to have it sitting there. Other than that, any questions? Okay, so that is all the funds, but I did want to talk briefly about our fiscal policies. A couple of the questions, and one of the counselors, which I appreciated immensely, talked about best practice. And we don't talk about best practice because we're in best practice, kind of like the police department's accredited. We don't talk about that as much just at the reaccreditation time. But in closing in this presentation, I wanted to talk about it. So I went to the Government Finance Officers Association, which works closely with the GAFR and best practice. And one thing that came up that was really critical is the fiscal stewards, and our responsibility as not only council, but staff, is that we're the caretakers of our community. And capital assets in the city of Carlton, they're owned in common by the citizens. The staff doesn't own it, the council doesn't own it, the city. So this building is owned by our citizens. And the council has the only authority on to repair, demolish, or leave it standing as is. But it's not our asset. And sometimes people feel that if we do a city hall or if we put a shed over, that we're doing it for staff. It's an asset for the city. The staff doesn't own it. We reside in it. The other thing that came up is in 2013, the council determined that they wanted to be fiscal stewards. And the city manager during that time, Chad Olson, who was an amazing financial wizard, decided, and they had a lot of projects, a skate park, they wanted the city hall, multi-use facility, and they had some other things. And he said, you have to show fiscal responsibility to proceed in projects of that magnitude. And during that time, he created a system to show that responsibility. The GFOA talks about it as capital asset management and strategies for establishing that renewal and replacement in those reserve policies. Very good blend. It ties right into our policies that he enacted and was adopted by the council in 2014. So I think sometimes we forget where we were even so much as 10 years ago and how far we've come. And it's through the council's hard work and their ears to the ground and knowing that this is for the community. This isn't for staff. It's not for the food cart. It's for all of us. Everybody owns a piece in all of our assets, the public works buildings, the city hall. I just wanted to close on that because it was a good reminder, and I really appreciated the counselor who said, you know, what is the best practice? And that the city is doing best practice, and we work hard at it, and public works works hard at keeping their standards up. The police department's fully accredited. So I just wanted to in closing say that we are still committed to, as staff, to doing the best job we can for our citizens. So thank you. Okay.
Okay. I hereby open the floor to public comments on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021-22. If you wish to speak, raise your hand or raise the hand function on Zoom and Amy will call your name. Once called, please state your name and address. Amy.
All right. Are there any citizens wishing to make a comment regarding the proposed budget? I don't see any, Chair.
Okay, if there are no additional comments, we will now close the public comments. The Budget Committee must now vote to establish the FY22 tax rate. Are there any staff recommendations?
Yes. So the tax rate for the city of Carlton is frozen at 5.0098. And the staff is recommending that you establish the FY22 tax at that frozen rate.
I will entertain a motion to approve and set the fiscal year 2021-22 tax rate at 5.0098%.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Amy, roll call, please.
All right. Counselor Erickson, how do you vote? Counselor Erickson?
Aye.
Thank you. Counselor England?
Aye.
Counselor Brendau?
Aye.
Counselor Maher?
Aye.
Counselor Skipper?
Aye.
Counselor Ward Mullen?
Aye.
Mayor Watkins?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Hill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Budget Committee Member Moore, how do you vote?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Schultz, how do you vote?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member David Wardrop, how do you vote?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Meyer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Budget Committee Chair Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes, all in favor.
The Budget Committee must vote to approve FY22 proposed budget. Are there any staff recommendations?
Yes, Chair Catherine, the staff is recommending that you move the proposed budget to approve to send before City Council June 2nd.
I will now entertain a motion to approve the FY22 proposed budget.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Amy, roll call, vote please.
All right. Counselor Erickson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Counselor England?
Aye.
Counselor Brendau?
Aye.
Counselor Maher?
Aye.
Counselor Skipper?
Aye.
Counselor Ward Mullen?
Aye.
Mayor Watkins?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Hill?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Moore?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Schultz?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Wardrop?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Meyer?
Aye.
Budget Committee Chair Catherine?
Aye.
Motion passes, all in favor.
Amy, we will now adjourn the Carlton Budget Committee meeting and open the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee at 7:36 p.m.
Okay, so it is now 7:36 p.m. and I'm calling the City of Carlton budget meeting to order. Do we really need to call the roll again?
No, I think you're good.
All are present and accounted for, Mayor.
That works. Are there any changes to the agenda? None. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the election of the Urban Renewal Budget Committee Chairperson for the City of Carlton. And I again nominate Dean Catherman, who has served many years as chairperson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Amy, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Erickson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Counselor Eglin?
Aye.
Counselor Brendau?
Aye.
Counselor Maher?
Aye.
Counselor Skipper?
Aye.
Counselor Ward Mullen?
Aye.
Mayor Watkins?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Hill?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Moore?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Schultz?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Wezrock?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Meyer?
Aye.
And Chair.
Aye.
All in favor, motion passes.
Congratulations. And you're up.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the Urban Renewal Budget Committee minutes from May 12, 2020. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of the Urban Renewal Budget Committee from May 12th, 2020.
Second.
Amy, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Erickson?
Aye.
Counselor Eglin?
Aye.
Counselor Brendau?
Aye.
Counselor Maher?
Aye.
Counselor Skipper?
Aye.
Counselor Ward Mullen?
Aye.
Mayor Watkins?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Hill?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Moore?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Schultz?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Wezrock?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Meyer?
Aye.
Budget Committee Chair Catherman?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor, motion passes.
Now staff will present the proposed budget.
Thank you, Chair Catherman. Are you guys tired of my voice yet? At least I talk loud. So the urban renewal budget is before you. The FY 21-22 budget reflects our 12th year that we're going to be receiving property revenue from the district. Our district at that time was frozen at 18,785,600. And currently our assessed tax value is $32,598,598, which represents a $13 million increase. So we are sitting really healthy in urban renewal, but we're going to be focused this year on moving towards undergrounding the overhead utilities on Main Street and starting the engineering for that, and then also the Meadow Lake loan repayment. Urban renewal, the downtown area was failing in funds to help in that infrastructure, so it was created at that time, and these are centered more towards that improvement. You turn to page 8. The beginning fund balance continues to grow. We have committed in urban renewal $1 million toward paying towards Meadow Lake. There was an intergovernmental agreement between the Urban Renewal Agency and the City of Carlton for that $1 million. The 65,000 is that payment towards that $1 million that urban renewal is responsible for. The revenues and taxes will continue to escalate, and that will change as our housing changes. Materials and services is very light in here. We do an annual report, and legal and advertising. Urban renewal has some specific rules. And then professional services is auditing, financial analysis plays into there. So very low materials and services. You'll see that projects hold a pretty high value, and it continues to escalate because Oregon budgeting takes us to zero. These funds are going to be working towards the design of undergrounding those Main Street utilities as we move forward. It'll be for design purposes. And then contingency holds at 45,000. It's a very low activity. It is not the City of Carlton budget, and it has to have an agreement or council approval to move any funds from the City of Carlton budget into urban renewal. Any questions on the budget?
I hereby open the floor to public comments on the proposed urban renewal budget for fiscal year 2021-22. If you wish to speak, raise your hand or use the raised hand function on Zoom, and Amy will call your name. Once called, please state your name, address, Amy.
All right. Any citizens wishing to speak, now is your time.
If there are no additional comments, we will now close the public comments. The Urban Renewal Budget Committee must now vote to approve the FY22. Are there any staff recommendations?
Yes, staff is recommending that the budget committee and council approve the FY22 budget, moving it from proposed to approved to present to council on June 2nd.
I will entertain a motion to approve the FY22 proposed budget.
I motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Amy, roll call vote, please.
All right. Councillor Erickson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Eglin?
Aye.
Councillor Brandau?
Aye.
Councillor Maher?
Aye.
Councillor Skipper?
Aye.
Councillor Ward Mullen?
Aye.
Mayor Watkins?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Hill?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Moore?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Schultz?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Wettrock?
Aye.
Budget Committee Member Meyer?
Aye.
And Budget Committee Chair?
Aye.
All in favor, motion passes.
We will now adjourn the Carlton Urban Renewal Budget Committee meeting.
Thank you, guys. I did want to talk to the citizen budget committee members. You'll be getting notices. Some of your terms are expiring, but I wanted to tell you thank you for participating. And thank you to council for sending some really good questions so that we can talk about it and address it as we go through. It made it really beneficial, and citizen involvement is critical. We really do appreciate all the time and energy you gave to the city. With that, the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.